Today on the newscast, Iran docks 2 warships in Brazil at America's doorstep. Could the Panama Canal be their next destination? Get all the breaking details coming up. Hey folks, Erick Stakelbeck here. Welcome to the Watchman Newscast. A little over a month ago here on the newscast, we told you that Iran planned to dock 2 warships in Brazil en route to the Panama Canal. The Iranian regime was boasting about this, including top Iranian generals and military officials, saying they were going to extend their reach into the Western Hemisphere at America's doorstep. Well, in late January, Brazil's far-left new president, Lula da Silva, denied the Iranian request to dock at Rio de Janiero. He did that under serious pressure from the Biden administration. At the time, Lula was headed to Washington, D.C. to meet with Biden. So Lula, to please the U.S. in advance of his meeting, denied that Iranian request. But folks, it wasn't a permanent denial. Request now granted. 2 Iranian warships docked on Sunday at the port of Rio de Janiero, and Brazil has authorized them to remain at port until March 4th. Now, these 2 Iranian warships, the one is called the Iris Dina and the other is called the Iris Marcan. Just to give you an idea of what their capabilities are, I'm just going to read it right here off my phone. From the Tehran Times, their capabilities, according to the Iranian regime, the military vessel called Dina is a Mauj-class warship that has been part of Iran's Navy since June 2021. According to the Tehran Times, it is equipped with anti-ship cruise missiles, torpedoes, and naval cannons. And then the Marcan is a forward base ship weighing 121,000 tons. It can carry 5 helicopters and is employed for providing logistical support for combat warships. So says the Iranian regime about these 2 Iranian warships docked right now, folks, in Rio de Janeiro. The Biden administration obviously is none too pleased about this, but it shows you once again how rogue regimes around the world like Iran, how far-left anti-American governments, which Lula's government in Brazil will ultimately be, pretty much scoff at the leadership or lack thereof in Washington, D.C. right now, and they're doing essentially whatever they want. Folks, number one, and we'll get to the Panama Canal factor in a minute, but number one, do not be surprised by this. Again, Lula, who was president of Brazil in the past, he did prison time after his first stint as president. He's out now. He won the election recently. He is back in charge, and during his last go-round as Brazil's leader, he was on a charm offensive with the Iranian regime, even meeting with former Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad back in 2010. You have to remember Ahmadinejad with the vicious anti-Israel genocidal rhetoric. Well, Lula cozied up to him and met with him. And this kind of meets with a trend throughout Latin America, which we've documented here for you on the newscast previously, whether it's Brazil now under Lula's leadership, whether it's Cuba, of course, Venezuela, Nicaragua, Panama, very friendly to the Iranian regime as well. Then you even have Colombia and Chile, which were 2 usually conservative countries. They've gone left as well, and there is a real surge at America's doorstep right now, sweeping throughout Latin America, which is a far-left Marxist movement, which invariably is usually very friendly to the enemies of America and hostile to Israel. So you have Iran seeing an opportunity, seeing the timing, number one, with kindred spirits coming to power in Latin America, kindred anti-Western spirits, and number 2, with weakness in Washington. Iran is saying, hey, we are going to strike while the iron is hot. I want to dig into the Panama Canal and Venezuela, that relationship with Iran, in a minute. Before I do, and before I forget, a quick programming note. Tomorrow, March 1st, hard to believe, March is upon us already, Wednesday, March 1st, between 4 and 5 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on our channel, we will have a Watchman Newscast live stream once again. Join us at 4 p.m. Eastern Time for a solid hour, and also send along your questions for our Q&A session. It's going to be good. We go live. It's a more conversational format, wide-ranging conversation where I'm taking questions from our audience members. You get to know me a little bit better, and I get to know you a little bit better, and we like that a whole lot. So be sure to join us for the live stream here on the channel. Also, if you have not subscribed, please give us a subscribe, click the thumbs up button, and also that notification bell so you get alerts every time a new video is posted. We would love to have you join us here as watchmen and women on the wall for such a time as this, where we are covering stories, folks, that the mainstream media is flat out ignoring. Case in point, 2 Iranian warships docked in the Western Hemisphere right now. So much for the Monroe Doctrine. I'm an American. If you learned that growing up in grade school here in the United States, we have perhaps America's greatest enemy in our hemisphere right now, and probably headed to the Panama Canal. Panama will not block the entrance of Iranian warships through the Panama Canal. You figure that these Iranian warships are docking for a few days in Brazil. Maybe they'll make a pit stop in Venezuela, more on that in a second, which would make a lot of sense in all the wrong ways. And then perhaps ending up in the Panama Canal. Again, last month, a top Iranian general declared that by the end of 2023, this year, Iranian warships would pass through the Panama Canal for the first time ever and reach the Pacific Ocean for the first time since the Iranian regime came to power in 1979. A very dark time that was, and the darkness still continues to enshroud the nation of Iran, and the greatest victims of this regime are the Iranian people, who are still, by the way, in the streets in large numbers protesting against the regime despite a relentless and brutal crackdown by the mullahs in Tehran. Continue to pray for the people of Iran right now, folks, and the persecuted church. Just to encourage you before we move on to the not so encouraging news of the Iran-Venezuela alliance, to encourage you, the church in Iran right now. Yes, there are Christians in Iran worshiping mostly underground. It is the largest growing church, fastest growing, I should say, in the world right now, despite relentless persecution. The more Iran's regime cracks down, the more the church there grows, because you cannot stop the gospel. So a word of encouragement for you right there. But as I mentioned, Venezuela, look, Iran is expanding its cooperation, its alliance with Venezuela across all areas, much like it's doing with Russia right now: economic, trade, military. And here is something to be concerned about. Could Iran supply Venezuela with ballistic missiles, with drones? Certainly. We reported last week that Iran is looking to expand its drone exporting, not only to Russia, which it's been doing to the tune of hundreds of attack drones going to the Russian military, but to other aligned regimes like Venezuela. Could we see Iranian suicide drones in the Western Hemisphere in the hands of the regime in Caracas? Not only that, what about Iranian ballistic missiles? This is kind of a Cuban Missile Crisis 2.0 you could potentially be looking at. I don't think that's alarmism. I don't think that is beyond the realm of imagination to say that Iran and Venezuela, with such a close relationship, that could end up with Iranian arms in Venezuela in the Western Hemisphere. Folks, put 2 and 2 together. It's common sense. Unfortunately, we live in times when common sense is not so common, and that's one reason we do this newscast every day. We will keep a close eye on what's happening in the Western Hemisphere with Iran, and of course in the Middle East, and on how it affects you no matter where you live. Thanks so much for joining us here today. Until tomorrow's live stream, God bless you, and remember, never hold your peace. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Watchman Newscast. If you enjoyed this episode and want to see more, make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, click subscribe, and tap the bell icon to turn on notifications for new Watchman Newscast episodes every weekday.